Warmest welcome to the Founders Climate Seminar here in Stockholm, provided by WeDontHaveTime and Founders Alliance. I'm Niclas, founder of Founders Alliance, which consists of 300 founders from different countries that build large-scale corporations and take responsible ownership. Here today we will discuss this topic, which is so important from a doers and get things done perspective. We will also ask our audience, which are all merited entrepreneurs and investing entrepreneurs, to ask some questions. First of all, I would like you all to introduce. Christie Gripsnäs, please introduce. Who are you?
Yes, I'm Cynthia Christie Gripsnäs. I am a first-generation family office principal. We made our 3 unicorns in the late 1990s in the family. And right now, I'm mostly focusing on investing 3 areas. One is the first one, the future of humanity, and that's education. The second one is the future of productivity. That's SaaS, artificial intelligence, computer and data science. The third one, which is very crucial for all of us, is the future of energy, meaning the baseload renewable energy. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much. And Joachim Karthäuser, please introduce.
Thank you. Joachim Karthäuser is my name. I'm chemist by education, learned a lot working for Shell, the fossil company. So I need to do something to compensate for my CO2 emissions. What I did is I'm co-founder of Climeon. That's a company converting waste heat to electricity. This is on the stock market after having sold to among others, Richard Branson's cruise ships. I quit that role and started a hydrogen business. We erect and build hydrogen production and tank stations, and we connect that with heat as well. I'll talk later about it.
Thank you, Joachim. Ulf Stenerhag, please introduce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ulf Stenerhag. I have an engineering background and a background in the healthcare sector for 20 years, supporting the big pharma companies to build up their production capacities. And since a couple of years, I co-founded together with my other founding partner, who is not here, a concept and a company called Wayout. And Wayout is all about making it possible for local production of clean drinking water from any source, anywhere, on a very in a good footprint for ecosystems. And we do that in a total circular way, so we avoid all the single-use plastic, chemicals, transportation, and we have also very high yields. We're taking care of the raw natural resources, water as well. So that's what we do.
Thank you so much, Ulf. And with us from New York, Ingmar Rentzhog, please introduce. And you can also introduce where you are and why.
Yes, hi everyone. I think most people see that I'm actually in New York, and the reason why I'm here is for the UN Climate Week that is happening here. And I'm the founder of WeDontHaveTime, and that's the world's largest climate solutions network. So what we do is that we connect people working on solutions all over the world, and we connect them and we get their conversation open up for the rest of the world. So one part of what we're doing here in Climate Week New York is that we're broadcasting from a lot of events, everything from what Business Sweden are doing to what Global Clinton Initiative are doing and what global businesses and startups are doing. You can tune into that on the WeDontHaveTime platform. So WeDontHaveTime, you can see it a little bit like an interactive TV channel for the planet, where all the solution makers are gathering to share how to solve the climate crisis. We're focusing on the answers, not the problem, mostly.
Thank you, Ingmar. We are so happy to do this together with you, and we have a very curious and interesting group of founders. I will not introduce all of you. I think we will come to you when you have a question. Today we will try to carve out, from a doer's perspective, committed entrepreneurs that have built and invested in companies in the past, how they see on different perspectives of this area. Because I believe in the world of entrepreneurs and the world of climate, we are committed. We try to convert our anxiety or frustration into doing power. So that's the theme for this meetup, this seminar. First question, I want all of you to touch upon it on a general level. What is your view on the big picture of sustainability and climate? What, for instance, the status, the opportunity, what needs to be done overall? Starting with you, Christie.
So thank you, Niclas. First of all, thank you so much for inviting us to participate in the ninth Founders Alliance World Summit. Brilliant. So when I was invited by the British Chamber of Commerce in 2021 to participate and give a talk at COP26, what I realized was that the overall awareness of the climate crisis, the status was relatively low among all leaders. Some very aware because they are the absolute world leader, but in many leaders, including political leaders as well as industry leaders, were not that acute. So because the reason for that was because many were not experiencing the acute crisis. But today, more and more countries and people have experienced the critical state of the climate crisis. So we now know we must reach the energy, so to say, net zero by 2050. But then the question is how? So the thing is we need to find solutions, as you rightly mentioned, Niclas, that to solve the 5 grand challenges that we face. That means the 5 biggest greenhouse emitters that are in manufacturing, they produce 31% of the greenhouse gas. And then it's electricity generation. They produce 27% of greenhouse gas. And then people always talk about transportation. Transportation is only 16%. And then 19% is agriculture. And then on the building environment is 6%, 7%. So in all, this is together 100%. So we need to realize one thing, which although many in the investment and also entrepreneurial arena, people talk about, oh, we do renewable energy, we do all the climate tech. But it took humanity 150 years to reach where we are now, based on fossil fuel. Okay, so if you say that they have taken, people, we, all of us, our ancestors, taken 150 years to perfect the fossil fuel technology, which we use today, the economics and efficiency of these technologies are nearly to their maximum capacity, meaning very cheap, very high capacity, and very efficient. So the green technology that we developed during the recent 2 decades, we need to be patient because they have not reached to that kind of efficiency and economics. Why? Because we did not have the luxury of time, we did not have enough talents, we did not have enough funding, we did not have all the distribution and also partnership with channels. We do not have enough government subsidies. We did not have also the policy support. All of this, in the green energy, we have some, but not all. It's taken us, remember, 20 versus 150. So there's big disparity. So we need to be patient, all of us, and be proud of what we do. So overall speaking, I am very optimistic towards the future. And I do know humanity has conquered this many times before. We took 3 years, $10 billion, and we've produced the nuclear bomb, and took us 10 years, about 25 billion. In today's dollar, is about $257 billion. Create what? The moonshot. I do believe the Earth shot, meaning we can solve the climate crisis. So I will leave.
Thank you for ending with a positive view. Joachim, what is your perspective overall on this theme from your end?
I try to be optimist all the time, but we are in a state of emergency, like the UN Secretary Guterres said. So I'm not as optimistic as Cynthia, although she said a whole lot of correct things. I mean, the truth is there's so many tipping points, you know, like the permafrost melting, the acidification of oceans, what have you. There are a couple of issues where we need to say it's not only that we don't have time, we have too little time now to fix. the rest. So we will see a more than 1.5% degree with bad consequences for many of us. It goes without saying, opportunities are boundless, and we have all the technology to solve the issue. And then, with all respect, that the build-up of fossil industry took 150 years. We could solve it. It demands huge amounts of money, and what we should do is energy saving, energy storage, of course, in combination with renewable energies. That's obvious that we should do that, but there's so many other aspects like food and water, which we will talk about. So these are the big consumers. So a lot of things to do, but we will be damaged. In our kids and grandchildren will be suffering from what we have done.
Okay, Ulf, what is the view of you? The overall
it gets linear more and more pessimistic.
Yes.
We'll lift you up at the end.
No, I'm usually the optimistic guy, but I have some doubts this time. I think we are in a very difficult situation, and I agree with you, Christie, and I agree with you, but I'm taking a little bit down in terms of optimism maybe. I think we have, one of the main challenges that I see is that we are continuously quite good in improving stuff. Humans are good product developers, extremely good. We take a car and we improve it, and it will be, like you said, with the fossil fuel, it will be incredibly efficient in the end. But what if it's not the right solution? What if the car was not the right solution? We're quite bad in design. And I think that, give an example from the industry where I work, where we want to get rid of all the plastic bottles single-use plastic bottles on the planet. 1.5 billion single-use plastic bottles are produced every day. And all the companies that are actually polluting are obviously trying to do their best to find solution on how to do the same thing as we do today, but with another material, biodegradable or anything like that, but still do the things we do, but more. So we're kind of good in improving the efficiency, but as I see it, we also as humans quite often use this efficiency to do more of the things. So I'm not sure we can solve this problem without changing our behavior, and I don't think we can change our behavior if we don't change our value set. And to resonate with a good friend of mine, Chief Oren Lyon, who was one of the first ones speaking in United Nations about the ice is melting in the north, we need to have value change for survival, I think.
Thank you, Ulf. And Ingmar, what is your big picture of sustainability and climate from a lobby there in New York?
Yes, this is a little bit more silent, I hope. What is it to say? We're in deep trouble, very, very deep. It's like the human race has received this severe cancer prognosis. But some people survive a prognosis like that. And of course we can do that, but it will not happen by itself. We need to everyone needs to make their part. I don't fully agree with Cynthia about who's responsible. You mentioned transport, building sector, and food industry, and everyone needs to change. Yes, but if we go to the root cause of this problem, 90% of all emission comes from fossil fuel. So I think we should focus on the source. Because we are actually in the transition to a green economy right now. All statistics show that. Globally, we are at 48% fossil-free energy, for instance, if you include nuclear and renewables. But the reason why it's going so slow is that the fossil fuel industry are doing everything they can to stop progress. So what we need to do here is to not only focus on emission reductions, we need to focus on reduce the fossil fuel industry influence over the society. Fossil fuel is a very inefficient way of producing energy. And the only reason why it's the most cheap energy is that the governments around the world are giving the fossil fuel industry $7 trillion in fossil fuel subsidies. It's nowhere near the subsidies that goes to the green economy. So the system is actually, it's set up in a way where we are really stuck in the fossil fuel industry. So we need to address that as well. And there's so many solutions out there that really can pick up pace. And what I see that we need here is that we need this vision where in 10 years we're going to the moon, or we need a Manhattan Project. We need to set the goal, and we need to just do that. And unfortunately, we don't have the leadership in the world in place that are doing that. Instead, our leadership are corrupt. They are sponsoring the fossil fuel industry by selling more licenses to open oil wells all over the place. Norway, UK, US, Australia, Canada. Everyone are doing that. And as long as we are producing more oil, we will never make this. So we need to produce less oil. But I think the most efficient way to do this is not to go head-to-head with the fossil fuel industry, because they're too powerful. Instead, we should cooperate and engage and help all the solutions to have them to win instead. And it's a race against time, and I do believe that we can make it. But it's important that we as entrepreneurs are doing our part, because I think what we can do is really critical.
Thank you, Ingmar. Christie, follow-on question, input?
So just based on what I heard from all the panelists, just to comment on what drives our economy is growing and moving our productions, period. So that's what drives economy, because without selling, you cannot just sitting in the room, just produce economy. Even on digital economy, you still have to move transaction. So according to IEA, International Energy Agency, after trillions of dollars has been invested in the green technology, green economy, and by today, it's still 80% of global primary energy, meaning baseload, mission-critical energy that you use for production. 80% is still fossil fuel-based. Why? Because you need simply two things: power density and scale. So that is, unless we stop the economy, unless we stop growing, then the fossil fuel will still be there. So therefore, it is critical for us to identify. That's where I'm investing in the baseload renewable energy. So that's critical. So, and 99% of the global fleet, meaning heavy transportation, which you will come in, heavy transportation is still it's fossil fuel based. So even though all these hundreds of millions, this EV has been deployed, it's still 99% global fleet. So then I will give the question to Ingmar. Ingmar, you started the company WeDontHaveTime. So do you think that the climate economy is only luxury for the few, or it's a mission for all of us as a species?
Today it's not the main economy, but it's all about that we're starting to grow this exponentially. So it will be, we have gone through a lot of phases. In the early 2000s, everyone was in IT, right? And today, everyone that are opening new businesses are, I will say, 95% of sustainability. So this is driving the development. So this is a space to be. This is a space where you have the job opportunities, the new companies, the new unicorns. Everything will be about the climate. But the problem here is that we don't have time to just get the new companies to thrive. We also need to transform the old companies. Otherwise, this transition will take too long time. It will happen, but it will take too long time. So we need to scale all the new startups and everything. On the same time, we need to transform the big players. And this is an area where we are working quite intensively, where we're connecting the big companies like IKEA, like Microsoft, like Google, with the small startups that have the solutions. But this is something that we haven't done in the economy before. We used to kind of scale the new things, but not on the same time scale down and change the old things simultaneously.
Thank you, Ingmar. Joachim, you're part of the founding team that created the company Climeon, which is a fantastic name, which addressed electricity generation from the waste heat. So what has inspired you to create Zelk together with Henrik Stang?
Well, I left Climeon in the pandemic. We couldn't do any projects, so I felt I'm wasting my time here. So when we looked at hydrogen, the first objective was we were working with solar cell parks, and it's very important that you store solar electricity so you can use it nighttime. So the question was from that company, how can you store solar electricity or wind for that matter? Now that 10 solutions, hydrogen is one of them. So we said, well, hydrogen is interesting. It's for transport. It's for the steel industry. It's for a whole range of chemicals. The largest chemical, ammonia, is made from that, methanol, a couple of other things. So it's a huge and very important chemical. So we said we can contribute in many ways here. We focus on transport because one of our partners, a government-owned forest company, wanted to have hydrogen for transport. So that was the reason, and also I found that it is so highly connected with the energy system. Hydrogen production needs water, it creates heat which you can use somewhere else. So we're looking at a complex energy system. So this inspires me. Just one comment to Ingmar. He said we need to transform the industry. The fact is, why do we use fossil energy? Because it's so darn cheap. I come from an area in Germany next to the lignite mines. I could take the bicycle and look for fossils. It was so close to my home near Düsseldorf in Germany. So if you just need to dig away 60 meters of earth and then you find gold there, I mean, this is incredibly cheap, especially at scale. This is why we're using it. Now the thing is, it's cheap for the companies to produce, but it's not cheap for you because the government puts about 90% taxes on it. So my point is, and we are in trouble because we have been using energy at rock bottom cost. We could easily afford to pay 5 times more for electricity or gasoline. When you drive a car, gasoline costs are maybe 10% of your whole cost, depreciation, insurance, what have you. So if you added a few percent, but taxes were reduced somewhere else, it's called a green tax swap. That is one of the instruments to use it, but you need then governments who are courageous and understand the problems and are willing to confront voters and say this is really important that we do that. So this is a little bit of we can do it. We can do it, but we need the courage.
Yes, we need the government to support.
Yeah.
So when it comes to thank you, Joachim, with very good point. So when it comes to really reaching the energy solutions for the future, we need the 4 pillars of the earth, meaning we need entrepreneurs, we need capital, we need innovators, academics. We also need policy, the political support. So that's 4 corners of the others. So, Ulf, many places in the world are facing existential crisis now. It's water. So many places in Africa and in Asia, such as in Cambodia, 80% of diseases are caused by drinking unsafe water. 80%, very high. So you have set out to build the company Wayout, which is a fantastic name, to solve the water crisis. And then so what is your vision, and how could this solution be economic enough to be able to install in all developing countries to help people to drink clean and sustainable water?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. I mean, we are addressing 2 major problems, you could say. One is the plastic pollution from single-use plastic. Easy to get rid of. Our first system are cheaper in price point than the plastic bottled water. So that's an easy exchange. It's not even disruptive. You change. Still, it's difficult because of the behavior, because we like to go around and toss it. It's simple and so forth. So that's one thing, and I think in that perspective we need support from regulation. Obviously, it's coming more and more. Plastic ban. We need a partnership like Ingmar was mentioned here. We cannot do it fast enough if we're trying to compete with the big ones. We need to offer that green transition to them. So that's the point over there, and there is a consumer behavior thing as well. And then for the access to water, that's mainly let's say an infrastructure reach to them, but also a price point, as you say. So the infrastructure reach we can use renewable energy, solar driven. We can take any kind of source, even hippo pool water, and we can recirculate any kind of new non-conventional water resource. So the only way to reduce the price point is obviously, again, to do a more and more efficient system and to do, let's say, improve our unit economics, you could say. And the way we have betted on that is doing that through industrialization. One size, industrialize, do it as many of the same as possible, ever possible. Bring down the cost, work down with material thicknesses and so forth. And there is an adding component which you can use, and there are two adding components which you can use. I'm not sure we will end there, but it's the carbon credit side. And there might be water credits coming up. I'm pretty convinced that in some way there will be water credits.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. There's a lot of discussion about that here in New York, so I think that will happen.
Yeah, I think that too, in one way or the other. It's a little bit complex because then you need to grade the cleanness of the water if you need to use it for agriculture or for cleaning or drinking or whatever. But I think we are already right now, when we're studying our, let's say, path forward together with our strong industrial partners, Alfa Laval and Siemens, who is involved in the project. And back to Ingmar, we cannot do that without collaboration. We don't have time to do it on our own. Together with them, we are even looking at price point that is, when we are checking upon, and we have an installation in Uganda, very rural, very, let's say, poor communities. We are at the price point when we stretch ourselves, let's say, 2-3 years ahead, where we can meet their request and they can become financially sustainable selling their own water, which will also cater for potential local entrepreneurship, local taxation, green job, and everything like that. So I think we can get there. It's a way. It's based on the scaling, obviously, and I think that we can use the single-use plastic bottled water crisis, if you might say, to facilitate that scale up.
Fantastic. So what you're just talking about is to actually reimagine, reinvent, recreate what we have today, and in a way that produce new economy also to come with, including microfinancing. And so new economic model can be created based on what you have created on the way out. So Niclas, I pass the next question to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you have a chance now, all of you, to pick one of your involved projects or companies or a role model company that you've seen the last month and describe it to us. Why that company is very key for making this change, to become tactical. Maybe Joachim, to start.
Shall I start? I'd like to present Zelk to you. We are a project developer within hydrogen, but also within waste heat, so circular economy, if you like. My past has been in Climeon, where we produce electricity from waste heat, so I took that with me, and as I said earlier, we looked at solar and the need to store wind and solar, so intermittent electricity in some way, so you have electricity all the time. That was our first point. We were invited to a town called Piteå up in the north of Sweden and were well received by the local community, the municipality, and they brought local entrepreneurs to it, including a family company, a diesel company selling for 2 billion Swedish krona diesel in the northern part of Sweden, and we felt this is the right ecosystem for us if we were welcomed by the municipality and entrepreneurs who invested then in us. There we said, okay, here we have a role, erect hydrogen tank stations with own production, and we copied that. We copied that to another city, trying to serve heavy traffic, transporting timber down to the paper mills at the coast. We also told them, see, if you produce hydrogen, you produce a whole lot of waste heat. It's stupid. 50% of the oil we use, and we understand 90% of our energy is fossil, 50% of that is leaving, is wasted as heat. So we said, if you invest into hydrogen, do the real thing and use this waste heat for something good. And the best solution we can recommend is greenhouses. We do produce not enough food in this country. We're importing a lot. We have a climate crisis. We have lower harvests in the Nordic countries. Nobody knows how climate will develop. So investing into greenhouses is a very good idea. That industry should expand dramatically. So although it may seem strange, hydrogen for transport and tomatoes in greenhouses, it seems like unrelated. It's very related. It's coupling of electricity, heat, and energy storage. This is called sectorial coupling, and it's a new buzzword. It's really saving energy. It's circular. It's making maximum use of the resources you have. As I said, we're a project developer. We source soft money from the EU and governments. We take care of permits, the planning, the sourcing of equipment, the quality checks, and then at an early stage, we try to attract investors who want to own these entities in the long run. Then we make an exit. That's a typical job of a project developer. So we have found our identity and are keen to deploy as many hydrogen stations and associated greenhouses, actually, as much as we can. That would be my
Thank you so much.
My job for
and
the future.
Ingmar, what is your favorite company that you've seen the last time that will make a difference?
That's a difficult question.
Maybe we don't have time.
I mean, of course, but I would like to highlight a Swedish company that is a gold mine, and that's Alfa Laval. They are leading the energy transition in energy efficiency. And not many people know is that this Swedish company is actually producing, last year, they deployed energy efficient solutions to their clients globally, that the effect of that saved more energy compared to the whole wind power industry that was built the same year. So Sweden alone, with this company, saved more energy when the whole wind power industry was building new wind power. That's amazing. So energy efficiency is an area I think we will see a lot of development in, because you have so many low-hanging fruits to just upgrade old technology and make it more efficient.
And Christie, what is your favorite project? Maybe something you have invested in, or something that you have seen in your nearest circle?
My favorite project actually is not related here. It's actually one of my philanthropic effort. It's a school. I built my favorite school is Gripsnässkolan. I built in 2009 together with my husband, my family, and we had absolutely amazing headmaster. So during the past about less than 14 years, this school has become one of the top 3 best grundskolan, we say in Swedish, in Sweden. Why? Because in Sweden you cannot mandatorily require any extra curricula. In our school we teach programming for every kids, because artificial intelligence has been a very hot topic lately, and we realized years back that same as reading, writing, arithmetic, the skill, the ability to make programming, it's same as important as you can read Swedish and you can do mathematics. In the future, you have to be able to do that, because that's part of the humanity in the future. And also, I want our kids to have influence, have a say. So in Sweden, in all schools, in average, Swedish kind of it's quite high, between let's say 5, maximum 10% in school kids have the knowledge of computer. That's a very high tendency. 5 is average, 10 is very high. My goal is for our school to reach 100%, meaning all the kids will be able to take up, like you know how to programming, like how to use your iPhone to be able to program. So that's one thing. The other thing is, my most proud is that my school, we teach things that school doesn't teach. We teach empathy, we teach grit, we teach teamwork, we teach hard working, we teach tenacity, we teach team collaboration, communication, all these skills. And then we teach, by the way, we teach climate awareness and climate knowledge. So all these skills for me and for my family and our school will be the essential skills for the future. So I think that we are building the children not for our past, but for their future. So I'm so very proud of that project.
Thank you so much. So the future, that explains why you look upon the future bright.
Yes.
Ulf, what is your favorite project? And tell us what.
No, I come back to what. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I come back to what we heard from New York, and I would rather describe it as a cluster of partnership. Obviously, my company Wayout is in the centerpiece of that, or a part of that. So what we are doing then is this microgrid system for drinking water, totally circular, without chemicals, without single-use plastic, without transport, because you produce where you consume, close to it. But we couldn't have done it without Alfa Laval. Alfa Laval is producing our hardware, and I agree with you, one of the most fantastic Swedish companies in that sector. And when we have our system, which is one microfactory where the water is treated and we are adding the minerals, and then we're adding the water into what we call kegs, which is it's a non-plastic solution that comes back and being cleaned with ozone. The keg itself is monitored where it goes, so we can make efficient last mile delivery. We have a dispenser also connected. All of this wouldn't be possible with our other industrial partner, Siemens, who do the automation, the dynamic LCA measuring of that, the IoT connection, the cloud connection, so we can keep control of this. And this sounds like a kind of a luxury, but actually it's the way to make efficient system setup, which means lowering carbon emission. And by the end of the day, and again, we have other partners like the Swedish government through their export credit, where we have been approved to getting support by export credit guarantees. Again, we are depending totally on debt finance our large capex building our system. So without that government support, it would have been very difficult. So all these partners represent more for me a new way of working, or not maybe necessarily new, but the way of working for the future, working together for very complex, solving very complex problems. And I think that I'm very proud of being part of Wayout, obviously, but it's a part of a larger cluster.
And in this very room, I know that there are many favorite projects. I think we have 100% of the participants having favorite projects. Some of you are very involved in climate investment and activity, which gives great hope. But we will need to be 10,000 more in this room to make it happen. And also aligning ourselves with the industry, and also get the politicians to key ways so that we change. Now to a tactical question, which was actually Christie's idea. Do you want to ask that question, the last one?
Okay, so Ingmar, if you get $5 million, what would you do in your business?
I mean, for me, that will be about what we need to take.
Now we can't hear you.
Time.
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, I mean, for me, that will be about the sum I need to take WeDontHaveTime to profitability. Because as an entrepreneur, it's a struggle with the time, and the capital market today is very challenging. So too much of my time goes into talking to investors. So it's really needed to get enough money so you can focus 100% on the business. And I think this is something many other entrepreneurs are familiar with. And in climate and sustainability, we don't have the luxury of time. We need to deploy the solutions here and now. So we need to funnel the investments to all the new players working on solutions like us and so many others. And here's a lack of funding. It takes too much time to raise capital. And if we would been an oil company, we will have received subsidies instead. I don't agree that fossil fuel energy is cheap. If you remove the subsidies, fossil fuel energy is actually much more expensive than the alternatives. So we need to funnel the subsidies into the green solution, and 5 million will help, but there could also be a lot more money into this sector, of course.
Thank you, Ingmar. Joachim.
If
$5
I had
million.
$5 million, I think you could put it anywhere. If you buy a solar cell or a wind power unit, it's useful everywhere. But to stretch a point, I would buy a couple of hydrogen trucks for our business up there, and it's we're waiting for someone else to buy the trucks. But one problem in the renewable energy industry is that we have a number of companies which are very focused on one aspect, and it's the collaboration which Ulf mentioned. That is important. So in order to create business, I would buy these trucks in order to create my own customer base. It's a bit like Tesla. They build electric cars, and they found, well, we need charging stations. So they started a business with charging stations. If there were no roads, I'm sure Tesla would build them. So I'm talking about this ecosystem, and I would sort of put the money into cooperation along the value chain. That's where I would put it.
Thank you, Joachim. Ulf.
I'm thinking. No, no. I'm thinking. Should I go for giving it away to culture to promote nice things for our humans, or no? I give you one example what I should do. I'm living and breathing with this, so way out. So obviously my thoughts goes to what we could do, and I would take that $5 million and build those systems that we're providing, and by providing it will be enough for 5, 6, maybe 7 systems. And those 5, 6, 7 systems will take out 70 million plastic bottles a year, annually, and give water to 50,000 people in 30 years. And as the payback time is so short, 2 years, we could generate another 7 units after 2 years, and then just continue to grow.
Wow.
So I will probably build a company with that.
Fantastic. Good. This is so good news. So you...
And yourself, what
yes,
would you
myself.
Put $5 million in?
Yes.
And what would the impact be?
Just don't laugh at my answer. I will use all that money to invest in WeDontHaveTime and to build their Asia Pacific presence. I tell you why. Ingmar, you were laughing. So I was in Singapore. Yes, I was in Singapore. Yes. I was in Singapore doing my field research, funded by myself. And because I'm also working as working board member of Harvard Business School Alumni Club of Sweden. So I'm responsible for ESG and climate change. So I want to see how the European, where we are in a luxury place, where in the Nordic country we are very sustainable. I want to see how can we bridge the gap, and also how can we bring the Nordic technology to the Asia Pacific region. So when I was there, the Singaporean told me, I met with many Singapore leaders, to say the least. But they told me that, Cynthia, you're going to experience the haze hovering over Singapore in the next few days. I said, why is that? Because Singapore is very clean. But say it's from Indonesia. Because Indonesian farmers, they have to cut down the trees and to make more crops and to plant more palm trees. But because cutting down they have to pay for equipment and machinery, so they don't have the money to do that. So you know what they do? The oldest method, they burn down the large field trees and so on. So not talking about the enormous emission that they have created. What more is that they create so much of the respiratory disease for the neighboring country. All the neighboring country complaining to Indonesia government would ignore because they are too poor to pay attention to it. So the thing is, I think that in that Asia Pacific region, especially in India and ASEAN region, like meaning Southeast Asia region, that the climate awareness really need to be increased. And I think WeDontHaveTime would be the perfect platform to do that. That's why, Ingmar, I would put all the money to build your Asia Pacific presence.
Yeah, I really like that, Cynthia. And I can add something. You mentioned that there's a lot of problem in Asia, etc., but it's also a lot of solutions they have that we don't know about.
Correct.
So that's one of our mission, is to amplify and help all the solution makers. And sometimes we in the Western world, we believe that we have all the answers, but there's actually a lot of innovation going on in Africa and Asia, in Latin America, that we need to learn from. And it's keeping me optimistic, actually.
Yes, so when it comes to talk about this sign of being optimistic, I would say that I'm full of optimism inside me, because I think that the world is abundant. And I do believe in abundance, because we're living in a world where we have never, as humanity, never been so efficient, so well educated, in such hygiene, and we are so well connected, and our population is 8 billion. And I think actually we'll grow even more, because we will aspire each other to overcome the current stage. As Joachim, you said, we will face a few years of, or even few generations of downturn because of climate crisis. But humanity has done this many times before. So I'm full of optimism and seeing the future. So when I was in Singapore, I met with the British High Commissioner, and she invited me to her residence together with Christina Fergus. So she was when she was in the capacity, Christiana, when she was in the capacity of United Nations General Secretary, so she pushed for the Paris agreements in 2015, so really make that climate agreement happen. So right now she's the chair of the very prestigious prize funded by the Prince William of UK, called the Earthshot Prize. So that this year will happen in Singapore. And then actually a lot of nominations from Singapore for the Southeast Asia region were really local people, but completely ecological and really sufficient. So if we can spread that into the rest of the world in a way, so that also will make it be, the climate effort will be much more quicker to come to reality. So that's my conclusion.
Great. With 5 minutes left, then we really need to get going with our doing power. 5 minutes left of this seminar. We have 30 founders here in the room from Estonia. We have India. We have also from Netherlands and Sweden present. Maybe I forgot one. Maybe you have a reflection to make or a question to make. The word is yours. If you don't have, then I want you to say something to them. Ingmar and Joachim and Ulf and Christie. A final remark each. Raise your hand if you have a question, then you will be prioritized. Yes, Adrian.
The question that I have is from, we're trying to, in a scientific way, attack the problem, because that's what we're doing. I think the problem is much deeper. The problem is we are part of nature. And what we do is we roughly disrupt nature, if it is PFOS, plastic, if it is nitrates, and like that. So I think we're doing a good job on the problem that we can solve, because that's the scientific problem. We do a very bad job of really bringing it to the people, that they understand they're part of nature and change themselves how they behave.
So to summarize, his input was that we tackle it very well on a scientific level, this problem, but on the nature level we don't tackle it, and we need to get behaviors to shift in order to understand the effects of the nature. Comments on that, Joachim?
Well, thank you for that comment. I think it's very valid. When I think about how the climate crisis is perceived, I think a lot about the movie Don't Look Up, if you have seen that. Apparently, many of you have seen that.
We're living
so it's the denial phase. Now, how, if you then you really battle against windmills? How do you do that? So my proposal is that we need to offer solutions at scale, and as technological solutions. We don't have time to convince people about doing the right things. We have to supply the systems, not only in the rich Western world. I mean, 20% of the world population, US, Europe, Singapore, Japan, we have created the mess. 80% did nothing had nothing to do with it. So we need also to make sure that countries which are now growing, increasing their living standard, that they deploy the right solutions. So we have huge tasks which make me humble in terms of what we can achieve. But there's a lot of truth in it. So we need to work on psychology, and there are actually some small solutions all over the place where you nudge people. Someone got the Nobel Prize for nudging theory. We need to deploy all these psychological measures too.
And we have another question there and there. So we have two. Ludwig first, and then Attica.
With this increased awareness of everything that's happening, why are we still seeing the lack of political leadership and vision? I think that was an interesting reflection from you about the vision part. When will we see the Manhattan Project? By who, and what will that be like?
What is your take? Why is the political leadership and the vision lacking? What to do about it? Maybe Ingmar first.
It's a really good question. It's like the $1,000 question. I think our world leaders are too much influenced by the fossil fuel industry and all the interest going into that direction. So they are paid by it. They are controlled by it. That's why we don't see enough change. So we need another leadership. And I think what's happening in the business community, you have this leadership going on. And that's where we need to push further to get the right leaders on board, because we don't have that today. Our leaders are going in the wrong direction, but the business community is going in the right direction. And what I see in the near future is that the business community will become much more advocate, much more active, raising their voice for another leadership, not just in Sweden, but everywhere. And that will change things. But that means that what you in the room can do is to not just invest in the new solution or work on the new solution, but also get together and push for a new leadership, because world leaders are listening to they're listening to business people. They don't listen to the general public. So we have a voice here, and if we coordinate that, change will happen. So this is where we're going to see the new climate movement. Our Prime Minister has actually said that the business community is the new climate movement. He's right, but he maybe could listen a little bit more on our suggestions, but he's right on that. We are the new climate movement, and I think that's very needed as well.
It's very frustrating, Ludwig. Thank you for the question. Attica Shona from New Delhi, what is your question?
So I live in India, work with climate, and I love the conversation in the room. There's a lot about technology, there's a lot about policy, there's a lot about what needs to be done. I come from a market where actually recycling is culture. It's kind of something that we do every day without thinking. And I think the cultural aspect, and you brought up South Asia, there's a lot of cultural aspect on, that can also be incorporated in this work, which I think has been overlooked globally. I mean, just food waste. When I come to Europe and I see how food is, how the relationship to food, and I see that back home. It's a lot of work that can be done on the cultural aspect. So I really hope that this is going to widen, and what the link work you all do is going to become a source of inspiration for me.
Brilliant questions and brilliant answers. I would say, give one comment. First of all, just let us all look back for a moment. Think about since the little young lady, Greta Thunberg, being created, how many years then until now? Not many years, but think about how much the awareness and also the whole movement globally on climate has been. So we see that sometimes that we tend to be pessimistic and think about there's so much problem because we're buried within. But if you take yourself out of the situation, from bird view, look at the progress, I'm extremely optimistic and seeing that I do believe that the political leadership will unite, because right now they still have to think about the economy, because as I mentioned earlier, it's growing and production of products. So you have to do that. But it will happen. And also all of you are, every one of you, and Ingmar, you said rightfully, all of you are having a voice, And all of you are leaders in the field. So let us all take actions. So we will make things happen. Small changes, it does not matter if big steps or small steps, as long as it's a step forward.
And as no one in the audience live did hear Attica, just short, the perspective she brought was that we have a lot to gain from different culture and behaviors from other places, for instance, India and Southeast Asia, where recycling is very, very part of the culture, whereas maybe Europe, we have not a recycling culture really. So there's a benefit, like someone else was touching upon, to bring know-how and behaviors from other places and then try to make it better. More questions? Last question, I would say. Then some of you guys can sum this up. You will maximum get 10 seconds because otherwise...
So I will take that text.
A last word.
Yeah. No, I come back to the two things. Either we incentivize things and make change, and that's like driving a car in full speed, and then we need to change it, and then we still have the full speed, and then we go like this, so we're constantly feeling new challenges and so forth. The other way is through value. I mean, we do things differently, like Attica said. We are embedding it in the culture, the behavior we are doing. And I really think that we need to have a value change for our survival. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm not worried about solutions. We have brilliant minds all over the place. Solutions will come. It's just, do we do the right thing? And do we behave the right way?
Yeah. And Joachim, your 10 seconds conclusion?
Well, let's focus.
Although Ulf took your 10 seconds.
Yeah. Just 5. So energy is the basis. It's also the basis for agriculture and water. So the big things we're tackling with. We need to focus on energy efficiency. Ingmar had some very good comments here. Renewable energy, obviously, and storage is one. These are the great topics. Everything else, like agriculture and food, will follow. There are lots of good examples. I would love to end on a positive note. We can do this a little bit later, but there are positive things happen where we need to accelerate. That's the big thing. And your question, awareness with politicians has been extremely low. Guterres is doing a good job. We need to.
Actually, time is out. Yep. But 5 seconds, Ingmar and Christie.
No, it's 5 seconds.
Okay.
Ingmar.
Super fast. We must make it profitable to save the planet and unprofitable to destroy it. Today is the opposite.
Great, thank you.
We need to change that, and we
Christie.
can change that, and we will.
Comment that it will take us about 10 years, and we must do that to create this kind of technology, and take another 20 years to deploy it, make it be extremely efficient and cheap. So that's the time scale, so 30 years.
Thank you. And to sum an academic, what entrepreneurs do in life, that echoes in eternity. And sometimes it will crush the establishment in order to take out the fresh for the whole population. So with that, I think all of you have to be inspired to do more. And thank you all of you for participation.
Thank you, Ingmar.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.